In this video, I'll show you how to create one or more picture-in-pictures and do complex animations with them, all without leaving the edit page in DaVinci Resolve. We'll use the Video Collage FX effect. It allows for easy creation of multiple picture-in-pictures or tiles, which can be animated and styled. The first thing is to decide how many tiles or picture-in-pictures you need. For each tile, you'll need a separate clip. So if you decide on 4 tiles or picture-in-pictures, you'll need 4 separate clips. And on top of that, you'll need a clip to serve as the background. These clips will have to be stacked on top of each other in the timeline, with the clip serving as the background at the bottom. The video collage effect will be applied to each clip except the background clip. For this example, we'll set up 4 tiles or picture-in-pictures, so we'll need to stack 5 clips, one serving as the background on top of each other. But first we need to create a timeline. I like to be organized, so I'll create a timelines bin in the media pool. This will contain any timelines we create. In the master bin, I'll right-click and select New Bin. I'll name it Timelines. I'll double-click on it to make it the active bin. Now I'll right-click in the Timelines bin, select Timelines, create New Timeline. I'll accept the defaults and click Create. Let's start with the background clip since it'll be on the bottom. You can use a video clip, a still image, or a generator from the effects library. We'll use a generator. I'll open the effects library, and under Toolbox, select Generators, and drag a 4-color gradient to the timeline. I'll leave it at its default configuration. Now for the 4 clips that will serve as our tiles or picture-in-pictures. It's not too important in what order they're stacked on top of each other. I'll bring the first one down from the media pool and place it on top of the background clip. A new track is automatically created. I'll adjust the length of the background clip later. I'll bring down the next 2. Holding down the Shift key, I'll resize the layout with the mouse wheel. To keep things simple, none of the clips have an associated audio track. If they did, the audio tracks would be stacked on top of each other underneath the video tracks. You'll notice the clips are different lengths. We'll make them all the same length after placing the last clip on the stack. If they're not all the same length, tiles will disappear when their associated clips end. You may decide that this is not a bad thing and use it to your advantage. So far, we've only added single clips to the stack. That's all very well for a video tutorial, but in reality, you'll probably want to use a series of clips that have been edited into a sequence. These will have to be consolidated into a single clip before applying the video collage effect. This can be done in a couple of ways. First, you can edit your sequence in a separate project and render it out. Then import the rendered video into your main project as a single clip that can be easily placed onto the stack. Or you can edit the sequence on a different timeline in the same project, and then create a compound clip to consolidate the clips into one that can then be placed onto the stack. The second approach is simpler, so we'll do that. Let's create a new timeline. I'll select the Timelines bin, right-click, select Timelines, create New Timeline. I'll name it Sequence Edit and click Create. It's now the active timeline. I'll select the clips of the sequence in the media pool by holding down the Shift key and clicking on the first and last one with the mouse. Now I'll click the Overwrite Clip button on the Timeline toolbar to place them all on the timeline. This is a contrived example, but it'll serve to illustrate. Now we need to create a compound clip. Compound clips are stored in the media pool, so I'll create a compound clips bin. I'll double click on it to make it the active bin. Now, holding down the Command key, Control key in Windows, I'll select all the clips. I'll right-click on one of the clips and select New Compound Clip. I'll name it Woman with Colored Hair and click Create. It's now a single clip. If you decide you need to edit this some more, you can return to the original by right-clicking on the clip and choosing Decompose in Place, using clips only. The clip is selected, so I'll press Command-C, Control-C in Windows to copy it. I'll select our main timeline from the drop-down at the top of the timeline viewer. Before pasting the clip, we need to create another track. Right-click on the video track header at the top and select Add Track. Disable the Auto Track selectors for all the video tracks except for the Video 5 track. Now when we paste the clip, it will be placed on Video 5. With the playhead at the very beginning of the timeline, press Command-V, Control-V in Windows to paste in the clip. I'll re-enable the track selectors. I want the clips the same length, so first I'll deselect the top clip by clicking in an empty space in the timeline. Now I'll place the playhead at the end of the shortest clip and press Command-B, Control-B in Windows to make a cut. Holding down Command, Control in Windows, I'll select the nubs. I'll press the Delete key to remove them. Let's extend our background so it's the same length as the other clips. I'll adjust the timeline zoom level. And I'll enable single viewer mode by clicking this button up here. We're ready to create our tiles or picture in pictures. We start by adding the video collage effect to the topmost clip in the stack, so I'll select that clip. In the effects library, I'll select Open FX. I'll scroll the list on the right all the way down. Video collage is under the Resolve FX Transform category. I'll double-click on it to apply it to the selected clip at the top of our stack. 4 rectangular holes have appeared in the clip, showing the clip underneath the top clip. We'll create the main layout of the tiles and their basic appearance, and then we'll copy the video collage effect to the other clips. Once we've done that, we can customize to our liking. I'll open the inspector. Workflow at the top should be set to create background. Underneath that, place a check mark in Preview Layout. The default layout is 4 tiles. Tile 1 is striped to indicate it's the active tile, but it's not relevant to what we're doing. The Globals button should be depressed. This is what we'll set up. Under Layout, there's 2 fields, columns and rows. Both are set to 2. These control the number of tiles. If you want 1 tile, set both rows and columns to 1. If I set rows and columns both to 3, we'll have 9 tiles arranged in 3 rows. If I set columns to 4, we'll have 12 tiles arranged in 3 rows of 4 tiles each. You can also enter a number directly into the edit fields to the right. But what if you want 11 tiles? How would you do that? Click the Tiles button. Place a check mark in Manual Tile Management in the Manage Tiles section. Now click the Delete Tile button. There's now 11 tiles. You may not like the arrangement, but as you'll see in a few moments, the tiles can be rearranged any way you like. I'll undo that by pressing Command-Z, Control-Z in Windows. There's also an Add Tiles button. I don't like the way it works. The new tile is placed on top of an existing one. I find that awkward. I prefer using the Delete Tile button to get the exact number of tiles I need. I'll press Command-Z, Control-Z in Windows to undo that. If you like, you can use the Delete Tile button to delete all the tiles, and then use the Add Tile button to add in however many you need. I'll uncheck Manual Tile Management and click the Globals button. To get our desired row of 4 tiles, I'll set rows to 1 and columns to 4. There's 3 more fields in the Layout section. Stagger horizontally doesn't do anything when you have a single row. I'll change rows to 2 so you can see how it works. I'll double-click the Stagger horizontally label to reset it and change rows back to 1. There's also Stagger vertically. I'll reset that by double-clicking its label. Rounding controls the rounding of the corners. You can eliminate rounding altogether or make the tiles completely round. I'll go for slightly rounded corners. Margins and spacing allows you to adjust the size and positioning of the tiles. Left-right margins adjusts the width of the tiles. Top-bottom margins adjusts their height. When workflow mode is create background, as it is now, horizontal offset adjusts the tiles as a group. I'll double-click on that to reset it. Same thing with vertical offset. I'll reset that as well. Later you'll see how these controls can be used to adjust tiles individually. Horizontal spacing adjusts the spacing between the tiles and their width at the same time. Vertical spacing adjusts the spacing between rows and the heights of the tiles. Let's click the Tiles button at the top. We'll give the tiles a border. To do that, expand the Tile Styling section. The Tile Border slider lets you add an inner or outer border, or if set to 0, the default, no border at all. I'll give them an inner border. I'll leave the color as yellow. We'll change it for each individual tile later. Now let's add a drop shadow to the tiles. Expand the drop shadow section. I'll adjust the strength, drop distance, and blur sliders. We're done setting up the layout. If you're not planning to customize the layout, make sure everything's to your liking. If you change your mind later, you'll have to start all over again unless you're willing to manually arrange the tiles yourself. But let's say you do change your mind. How do you start over again? For each clip in turn, select it. Then, in the Effects tab of the inspector, click this trash can at the very top to remove the video collage effect from the clip. Okay, at the top, let's change Workflow to Create Tile and uncheck Preview Layout. There's the woman with the colored hair. The 3 other tiles have disappeared, but we'll bring them back in a second. There's black areas at the top and bottom, but we'll fix that in a moment. We're ready to apply the video collage effect to the other 3 clips. Right-click on the topmost clip and select Copy from the menu. Click on the clip just beneath to select it. Holding down Command, Control, and Windows, click on the other 2 clips to select them. Right-click on one of the selected clips and choose Paste Attributes. Place a check mark in Plugins and click Apply. The video collage effect has been applied to the other 3 clips. Now let's bring the other tiles into existence. Click on an empty area to deselect the clips. Click on the clip just beneath the top clip to select it. Click on the Effects tab in the inspector to access the controls for the video collage. From the Active Tile drop-down, select Tile 2. There's our man. Let's do the same for the other two clips. Select the next clip down. This time, set Active Tile to Tile 3. And the last clip will be Tile 4. Now that workflow is set to create tile, and the video collage effect has been applied to all the clips, we can customize these tiles all we want. Let's take care of those black areas in the first tile. Select the top clip. Expand the resize content section. I'll adjust the zoom slider to zoom in and get rid of the black areas at the top and bottom. You can click drag on the edit field as well as using the slider. And you can type numbers directly into the fields. You're not limited by the sliders. The pan slider pans the shot from side to side. The tilt slider tilts the shot up and down. I'll double click on the pan and tilt labels to reset them. Tiles can be positioned anywhere. You're not trapped in the grid pattern. To demonstrate, I'll click the Globals button at the top. Under Margins and Spacing, the horizontal and vertical offset fields can be adjusted to place the tile wherever you like. The tile's on top of the others because it's the topmost clip in the timeline. I'll reset the horizontal and vertical offset fields. All the other fields under Margins and Spacing can be adjusted to further customize the tile. The fields under Layout, however, should be left alone. They'll change the size and position of the tile, but it's better to use other controls to do that, such as horizontal and vertical offset, and the parameters in the Custom Size and Shape section. You'll see how that works in a moment. I'll click the Tiles button again. Let's change the border color for this tile. We'll give each tile a different border color. I'll expand Tile Styling and click on Tile Color to select the border color. Let's do the other three tiles. Select the next clip down and under Tile Styling, select the border color. I'll do the other two quickly. We're ready to animate these tiles. Before beginning to set up an animation, it's very important to have everything you're going to do clear in your mind and then proceed step by step. We're dealing with 4 tiles, so that's a lot to keep track of. But fear not, it's not too difficult. Here's what we'll create. We'll do one animation at a time. For simplicity's sake, each sequence will be 1 second long. To begin, there'll be 1 second in which no animation occurs. And after that, the first animation, which will also be 1 second. I'll position the playhead at the beginning of the timeline by pressing Function left arrow, Home key in Windows. Now I'll press Shift right arrow to advance the playhead by 1 second to where the first animation will begin. We'll start with aligning the tiles vertically on the right. I'll select the clip underneath the topmost clip. In the inspector, I'll click the Globals button. I'll add keyframes to the left-right margins, top-bottom margins, horizontal offset, and vertical offset fields. These are the fields we'll use to move and resize the tile. We'll be changing their values, so they need to be keyframed for the animation to happen. I'll press Shift right arrow to advance the playhead 1 second to the frame where the animation will end. First, I'll use the horizontal offset field to move the tile to the right. I'll place it directly over the rightmost tile. Notice that a second keyframe has been added for us. A keyframe is a special marker placed on a frame. One keyframe by itself does nothing. The magic happens when you add a second keyframe. I'll click the little arrow to the left of the keyframe symbol to move back to the first keyframe. Doing this also moves the playhead to the frame where the keyframe is set. Take note that the value of horizontal offset is 0. I'll click the little arrow to the right of the keyframe to move back to the second keyframe. Horizontal offset has a different value here. When the playhead passes the first keyframe, the value of horizontal offset begins changing until it reaches the second keyframe, at which point horizontal offset will be at the value it's at now. The result is that as the playhead moves between the keyframes, the tile is moved. I'll move back to the first keyframe and press the space bar to start playback. There's the tile moving. If the value of horizontal offset is the same at the first and second keyframe positions, nothing will happen because nothing has changed. The further apart two keyframes are, the slower the animation will be, and the closer together, the quicker. I'll move back to the second keyframe where the animation ends by pressing the little arrow to the left of the keyframe symbol for horizontal offset. Now I'll use the vertical offset field to position the tile in the upper right. I'll use left-right margins and top-bottom margins to make the tile smaller. I'll adjust vertical offset to move the tile up a bit. Now let's move the other two tiles. First, move back to the first keyframe. All the tiles will move at the same time, so we need to start and end everything on the same frames. Now I'll select the clip of the young lady with the phone. Again, click the Globals button and keyframe the left-right margins, top-bottom margins, horizontal offset, and vertical offset fields. I'll move ahead by 1 second to where the animation ends by pressing Shift right arrow. I'll reposition and size the tile. The tiles have to be the same size, so I'll refer to the clip of the man to see what the values of left-right margins and top-bottom margins are. To do that, I'll just select the clip of the man to see what the values are. I'll just copy those values by typing them directly into the edit fields. I'll line up the tile underneath the first one. I'll quickly do the third tile. Let's see how that looks. I'll move back to the frame with the first set of keyframes. You'll know you're at the first set of keyframes when there isn't a little arrow on the left side of the keyframe symbol. I'll start playback. All right. Now to increase the size of the leftmost tile to fill in the empty space we've created. Everything's happening at the same time, so again we'll move back to the frame with the first set of keyframes. I'll select the top clip. I'll click the Globals button in the inspector and place a keyframe on the top-bottom margins field. Now I'll click the Tiles button and expand the Custom Size and Shape section. I'll keyframe the Start and End column and Start and End row fields. It's best to keyframe all 4 of these fields, even if you're changing only one of them. The animation won't turn out well if you don't. You can experiment on your own to see what I mean. Let's move ahead 1 second to where the animation ends by pressing Shift right arrow. I'll set End column to 3. This makes the tile 3 columns wide instead of 1. Now I'll click the Globals button. I'll use top-bottom margins to adjust the height. Moving the slider all the way to the left does the job, but I'll make it bigger still. I'll click-drag the edit field to the left. First animation is complete. Let's see how it looks. I'll position the playhead at the start of the clip and play it back. That's great. Now the second animation. All the tiles go back to their original positions and size. Let's go back to the frame with the last set of keyframes. This is where the first animation ended. When there isn't a tiny arrow to the right of the keyframe symbol, we know we're at the last keyframe. I'll move ahead 1 second to where the second animation will begin. This creates the 1 second interval where no animation occurs. Let's do the large tile first. Make sure the top clip is selected. We need to keyframe the same fields as we did for the first animation since we're doing the same thing, just in the opposite direction. I'll keyframe top-bottom margins. I'll click the Tiles button and keyframe the fields in the Custom Size and Shape section as before. Now I'll move ahead 1 second to where the animation ends. I'll change end column to 1 so the tile fits in the first column. I'll click the Globals button. I need to change top-bottom margins, but I don't remember what it was set to originally. To find out, I'll position the playhead at the beginning of the clip. 0.527. To go back to the previous position, I'll click the tiny arrow to the right of the keyframe symbol to navigate back to the last keyframe. We're at the frame where the current animation begins. We have to move to the frame where it ends, so I'll move ahead 1 second. I'll enter 0.527 in the top-bottom margins edit field and press return. That did it. Now the other tiles. Let's start with the man. Select the clip. We're at the end of the current animation, so I'll press Shift left arrow to move back 1 second to where it begins. I'll keyframe left-right margins, top-bottom margins, horizontal offset, and vertical offset. As before, I don't remember what the original values were, so I'll place the playhead back at the beginning. Left-right margins is 0.07 and top-bottom margins is 0.527, and horizontal and vertical offset are both 0. I'll get back to the last keyframes we set. Now I'll move ahead 1 second to where the animation ends. I can double-click on the horizontal and vertical offset labels to set them to 0, their default values. I'll set left-right margins to 0.07 and top-bottom margins to 0.527. Now the next clip. Select it. Move back 1 second to where the animation begins. Keyframe the 4 fields and move ahead 1 second. Now I can click on the clip of the man to find out what the value of the other fields should be and input them. I'll quickly do the last clip. Let's play all of what we've got so far. Great. Here's the third animation. To start, we'll position the playhead on the last keyframe. This is where the previous animation ended. I'll select the top clip. Let's move ahead 1 second to where the current animation will start. We'll shrink and fade the 3 tiles first. To do that, click the Tiles button. Expand the Tiles Animation section. The Apply to All Tiles field has no effect because of the way we've set up the video collage, so it doesn't matter if it's checked or not. The Animate field, however, should be set to manually keyframe to maintain complete control over any animations we do. If you set it to any other value, you'll lose control over where the animations occur. This is not what we want. For now, we want to shrink and fade. The shrink drop-down has 3 values that are self-explanatory. We'll leave it as shrink. To execute the shrink and fade animation, we need to keyframe the shrink progress and fade progress fields. Let's move ahead 1 second to where the animation ends. Now move both the shrink and fade progress sliders all the way to the right. I'll move back to the first keyframe of the shrink and fade animation. I'll quickly set up the same animation for the other 2 tiles. Now let's make the tile containing the young lady with the cell phone grow in size. First, we'll move back to where the current animation begins. Now select the clip of the young lady with the cell phone. We need to keyframe top-bottom margins. Click the Tiles button and expand the Custom Size and Shape section. We need to keyframe the 4 fields here. Let's move ahead 1 second. Set Start Column to 1 and End Column to 4 to make the tile 4 columns wide. Now click the Globals button. Sliding top-bottom margins all the way to the left will do the trick. Let's go back to the beginning of this last sequence and play it back. All right, very good. Next, we'll have all the tiles move back to their original size and locations again. Now move ahead 1 second to where the 4th animation will begin. We'll start by shrinking the young lady with the phone back down to size. I'll keyframe top-bottom margins. Click the Tiles button and keyframe the fields in the Custom Size and Shape section. Move ahead 1 second to where the animation ends. Set Start and End columns both to 3 so the tile occupies the 3rd column only. Click the Globals button. We have to set top-bottom margins. I remember from earlier that it should be 0.527, so I'll type that in. Now to bring back the other 3 tiles. First, move back to the previous keyframe. Select the top clip. Expand the Tile Animation section and keyframe the Shrink and Fade Progress fields. Move ahead 1 second and move the sliders for both fields all the way to the left. I'll quickly do the other 2 clips. Let's move back to the first frame of this animation sequence and play it back. Okay, here's the last animation. The tiles will fade and fly out of the frame, 2 to the right and 2 to the left. Let's move to the last frame of the previous animation. Now move ahead 1 second. I'll select the top clip. In the Tile Animation section, we'll leave Fly Animation as Fly Right. It's not necessary for what we're doing, but I'll keyframe this field. If you're planning on having the tile fly right at one point and fly down at another, for example, you would need to keyframe this field. It's easy to forget to do this, so keyframing it is a good habit to get into to save yourself headaches. The same goes for the Shrink Animation field. Next, we'll keyframe the Fly Progress and Fade Progress fields. Now I'll press the apostrophe key to move to the last frame of the clip. I'll move the fly and fade progress sliders all the way to the right. Let's move back to the previous keyframe. Now the clip beneath the top clip. This time we'll set fly animation to fly left. Again, keyframe the fly animation and fly and fade progress fields. Press apostrophe to move to the last frame and move those sliders all the way to the right. Now back to the previous keyframe. The next clip will be set to fly right and the last clip will be fly left. I'll do them quickly. Okay, let's play the whole thing back. I'll position the playhead at the beginning of the timeline. That's great. Quite a few steps, and I'm sure it seems overwhelming, but once you've done it a few times, it's not so bad. As far as I know, the only other way to do this would be in the Fusion page, and that would be much more work. I hope you found this helpful. Thanks for watching.